Hello everybody, welcome to the Spring 2023 Athletic Department meeting as we get ready for our spring seasons. My name is Mr. Schneider, I'm the Associate Principal and Activities Director here. This is my second year at the high school and I can't say enough how much the tremendous amount of pride that is here within the Monona Grove community. It's been a wonderful thing to be a part of. As a parent or an athlete within our community, I'm sure you've been able to experience that, and if you haven't yet, getting ready for the spring season is an awesome way to be able to experience that amount of pride that's here. With that amount of pride, you'll also be able to experience really the high standards that everyone sets for each other within the programs. We have a wonderful culture that embeds that high standards amongst each other. And what the purpose of this video here today and the purpose of this meeting is to be able to create common ground amongst all of our athletic programs and be able to establish what our values are as part of the Monona Grove Athletics and Activities community, and then also communicate exactly what it takes. If you want to be able to participate in our programs, this is some of the information that you need to know in order to participate, as well as what exactly is needed on your behalf in order to be a part of this community. And we're excited to get started going into the spring season. So without further ado, let's get started with our Spring 2023 Athletic Department meeting. We're going to start off by talking about our expectations or our cornerstones of our athletic department. Our cornerstones are known as our talons here at Monona Grove. The talons starts with commitment. And what we want in our programs is we want to be able to teach kids to push themselves beyond their own limits, that they're challenging themselves every day and seeing every day as an opportunity to become the best version of themselves. The second talent that we focus on is creating spirit within our student athletes. And that's making sure that they're showing a caring demeanor for their teammates, that they have enthusiasm for the success of others beyond themselves, and that they're also proud to be Team MG. Our third talent is our community talent. When it comes to our community talent, we want to make sure our student athletes are displaying a willingness to give and share, that they're also showing respect for the game, and that they're also giving our community something to be proud of, something to continually be proud of. Our fourth talent is leadership. We want to make sure that we're developing leaders out of our student athletes. We want our student athletes to be selfless and caring of their teammates, of their team. We want them to also understand that they're always leading, that they have an opportunity to continually get the next person in line ready to essentially to take over. Our programs have perpetual life. Part of their responsibility as a leader is to make sure the next generation of Silver Eagles are ready to take on that responsibility, and that they're also being intentional with everything that they do as far as leading. They want to make sure that they're intentionally making actions towards making sure that their teammates are doing the right things, and that if they see someone not doing something that they should be doing, that they don't sit there in silence, that they do something to get their teammates on the right path. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the values and expectations within our culture. Now, these values and expectations of our student athletes are created and developed by student athletes. So one of the things that I want to communicate is something that was, like I said, communicated or developed by our student athletes, is what's the purpose of our programs. And what they came up with is that the purpose is to create community, unity, and bring people together with our programs, which is an amazing purpose to have as a student athlete and in our program. So that's something that we'll use to kind of guide our decisions as we move forward, and what we expect our student athletes to do, guiding their actions and behaviors moving forward. As far as the values that we developed, that student athletes developed, that they want student athletes to display include accountability, teamwork, and respect. The traits that they want student athletes to display are pride, competitive, and respectful. And what you'll notice is that respect is obviously a big theme of the expectations student athletes have of one another. And we want to make sure that student athletes are displaying respect for their teammates, respect for their teachers, respect for their coaches, and then obviously respect for the game officials and the workers that work so hard to put on these events. So that's something that we expect of our student athletes, to be intentional in their actions, to make sure they're displaying respect for the game and for all those around, and displaying respect whenever they're representing the Monona Grove community. We're going to take a few moments to talk about our registration process and all of the forms and paperwork essentially that need to be turned in for athletic participation. The first one is the one that has the most substance to it, and that's the physical form. Now, physical forms for the WIAA are good for 2 school years. So the definition of that, or what that works for, is that the physical itself had to have been administered on or after April 1st of 2021 for it to be valid for this 22-23 school year. So make sure that you can verify that the physical is up to date. If you have any questions, reach out to our Athletics and Activities office and we can help identify what year we have on file of that physical being administered. The other areas that we need signatures on for registration are the code agreement, concussion agreement, acknowledgement of risk, WIAA eligibility form, as well as the registration form. All of those are simply informational that parents and students both need to sign off on. So this is all done electronically through Infinite Campus. Parents can do it by logging into their parent portal, and then once they're done and they've completed the checkout of the cart for $0, it goes to the student, and then we need the student to sign off on these forms as well. So the majority of registration is just simply signing off on the information that is provided to you. The other piece of registration that is not necessarily due before or when all of the other registration is done is there's going to be a Student Athletics and Activities Code quiz. That's a 10-question quiz that will be administered during their first week of practice. And this is another form of communication so that students understand that code isn't going to cover all aspects of the code, so that quiz won't cover everything, but essentially we'll go over some of the main things that come up more frequently than others, and this is another piece for us to use for educating our students about our athletics and activities code. We also have registration deadlines for our spring sports season. So as part of Monona Grove, we require parents and athletes to register for each upcoming season. So when we get into the spring season, that is no different. What we wanted to be able to provide to you is some clarity as far as when we need that registration to be completed by in order to participate in day 1 of practice. And the reason that we have these deadlines is because in the athletic department, we anticipate having to go through and check the eligibility and the paperwork of somewhere between 430, 460 athletes that are going to be coming through our program for our spring participation. And we need to have time in order to adequately do that in order to mitigate the amount of mistakes that can be made when it comes to registration and our student participation within our WIA activities. For boys and girls track and field, that's our first spring sport that is going to get kicked off here. In order to participate on day 1 of practice, we need that registration completed Thursday, March 2nd by 4 p.m. For softball, our next activity, we need that registration completed Thursday, March 9th, also by 4 p.m. Baseball and girls soccer both get started at the same time. We need that registration completed by Thursday, March 16th by 4 p.m. And then for boys tennis and boys golf, which both start their season the first week of spring break, in order to participate on that first day of practice, we need that registration in by Thursday, March 23rd. After that, we would expect 1 business day in order to participate to allow us to have an ample amount of time to be able to process eligibility information. When you are registering, one of the things you need to make sure that you're on the lookout for is receiving that registration receipt in your email. That's how you know that you have completed the registration process. If you have any questions at any point, whether you have your registration completed properly on Infinite Campus, make sure you send either Amelia Leisure an email or myself checking to see if you have that information in. We are available. You can send an email, call, just verify that you have the registration completed. That is helpful on our end because we want to make sure that is done sooner rather than later. And like said earlier, most of the paperwork that you need to do is just checking through some forms and having some up-to-date information. We need some help on your end in order to make sure that all of this information is processed properly to begin our seasons, to begin our seasons as smoothly as possible. So we appreciate your help on that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go through some of the 3 key areas of our activities and athletics code, or athletic and activities code, which is really the 3 key areas of any code that you see at any school. And really, those key areas come down to our academic expectations, our attendance expectations, as well as our conduct expectations. We're going to start off by talking about our academic expectations in order for extracurricular participation. So ultimately, out of our code, the way that it reads is participants in activities shall not receive any failing grades at the end of any quarter. When considering academic eligibility, only grades reflecting academic performance during the most recent grading period will be considered. So what that looks like, so ultimately you pass all your classes, you remain eligible to be able to participate. If you're not passing all of your classes at your most recent grading period, then you'll lose the eligibility in order to be able to display yourself beyond the MG community. So that makes you ineligible to participate in competition, performances, events, those types of aspects. Now, if you have one failing grade at the most recent grading period, that's going to be an ineligibility period of 21 days from the time that it is posted. Now, the interpretation of that for fall sports is 21 days from the first competition date or first eligible competition date. So when it comes to fall sports, you're going to want to take a look at that athletic code. And in there, we have the dates laid out as far as when that eligibility will be reinstated for one failing grade and what particular date, and it varies depending on the sport or athletics that you're participating in. If you have two failing grades, you would not have eligibility for the quarter. However, there is a caveat to that. You do have the ability to regain your eligibility at progress report time if you're displaying all C's or better on that particular progress report. And for interpretation's sake, a C- would not qualify for that. It needs to be a C or better on progress report, and you can regain eligibility immediately on progress report date. Those dates are also listed in the code for you to be able to see specifically when those occur. Now, when it comes to grades, they are snapshots, so they're essentially the reported grade. Once that grade is posted, that's what determines eligibility. That's the record. So just for interpretation's sake, once the grade is posted, it becomes historical record. Just going back and now fixing the grade, or 2 days later turning in a bunch of homework and saying, oh, my grade is up, that's not going to change the ineligibility period. Once it's posted, the ineligibility period is put into place. And there's no going back on that, essentially. So the reported grade is what matters. Make sure that you're on top of what your grades are, that students are on top of what their grades are, and be communicative with it. We do have some grading periods built in to each grading term that are also listed into the code, so that if there are any discrepancies or issues, there's some reaction time to that. So make sure that you're staying on time or staying on top of those dates. And ultimately, the message is pass all of your classes and remain eligible and maintain the ability to display yourself as a member of the MG community beyond the community with those academic expectations. We also have attendance expectations at Monona Grove High School in order to participate in extracurricular activities or activities beyond the school day. And essentially, the attendance expectation is to be in school the entire day. Now, if you do have a prearranged medical absence that you do have documented doctor's note on file with our attendance office, then you would still remain eligible to participate at the end of the day. Now, make sure that if you do have a doctor's note, a doctor's appointment, that you are getting that documentation to our attendance office within a timely manner. I would say you'd want to have that in by 10 a.m. the day of the appointment. That way our attendance office can process it and we don't have any hiccups in that particular aspect of eligibility. Simply having a parent excuse or a parent call-in would not necessarily qualify. If you have a medical note, or if you have a doctor's appointment, we need that medical note to verify it. There are some, if you do have a prearranged or an extenuating circumstance, that's something that you can get approved through administration. If there's a reason that you would be absent during the school day, make sure that you have that communication through administration so we can kind of work through that or be able to problem solve that, those extenuating circumstances. Also, if you're a student athlete and you have an unexcused absence on a Friday, that would also render you ineligible to participate in any weekend event, so essentially going through that. Now, that's listed as unexcused absence at that point on a Friday. As far as what this process looks like for attendance expectations, our coaches get a report at 3 o'clock each day. And essentially it lists out their roster and any student attendance marks that they need to take a look at, and it outlines their team, those attendance marks, and then the coach is the one who's managing those attendance expectations, going directly to the person who's going to have to manage whether a student is eligible to practice or participate that particular after-school period. There's also language in our code for patterns of tardiness or being late to class. You could potentially be ineligible for the next contest or activity, and that pattern is determined by the associate principals as they take a look at each particular case of a pattern of tardiness. So make sure that the student is coming first and that student athlete, you're getting to class on time, and you're attending class essentially reliably, and that also maintains your eligibility. In order to be able to participate beyond the school day, you have to give a commitment to the full school day as it is. We also have conduct expectations here at Monona Grove. So the third part of our expectations is to be able to participate in our extracurricular activities. And really it comes down to that SOAR mindset that you see across the building. We expect students to be scholarly, organized, accountable, and responsible. And as you can see on this particular slide, it kind of shows exactly what the look-fors are in each one of those aspects. So scholarly, you're doing your schoolwork, you're studying, you're working hard, and you care about your academics. Organized means you're being on time, punctual, that's that attendance piece, and you're being present. And accountable means you're honest and you understand the consequences of your actions, and also responsible. Avoid prohibited behavior and just do what you should be doing. So just maintain those SOAR expectations, and that'll allow you to remain eligible as far as conduct violations go. Now, as far as our conduct portion, we have 5 violations in our code of conduct. We have alcohol and other drug abuse, or that possession area of it. We also have state and federal statutes, so essentially conducting criminal acts, municipal ordinance violations, conduct unbecoming of a student athlete or someone representing the Monona Grove School District, as well as some clarity on school suspensions and what that may look like. So with the coming into violation of number 1 and 2, that's our cumulative code violations. So every time you violate something in that violation number 1 or number 2, the alcohol and other drugs violation or a criminal act violation, that becomes cumulative. So each time that you do it, the suspension becomes greater. So our first violation, you're going to see a suspension of 25% of the contests in that particular season. If it's your second violation, that's 50%. Third is you're out for a calendar year. And the fourth violation, it would be 2 calendar years that the suspension or the ability to participate in events, competitions, performances would last. Now, if you're in violation of violations number 3 and 4, then it could be no less than the next upcoming competition or event is how that's laid out. So if you're seen in violation in that, it's at least 1 competition or event. And then violation 5 is adding some clarity. So essentially, students should not be getting suspended from school. If you are also ineligible for competitions practice through the suspension day, so through 11:59 p.m., that particular last day of the suspension, and then you'd be potentially able to return after that, and this could also include additional suspension or ineligibility period time after returning from that suspension. So just getting some clarity as far as the 5 different violations that you could find yourself in and what those penalties are. Now, keep in mind, representing MG is a huge responsibility. You need to be up to the task 24/7. It is an all-the-time thing. And WIA rules require year-round enforcement of our conduct aspect of our athletic and activities code. And also something to keep in mind, especially if you're participating in our WIAA interscholastic activities, it is WIAA rule that if you are suspended for any portion of a WIAA tournament event, you would be ineligible for the entire tournament. So if you're suspended for no more than 1 event, and that happens to be a playoff game, no matter how far the team goes in the tournament, you're ineligible for the entire playoffs based on WIAA rules. So make sure that you're aware of that. Once you get into playoff time, the stakes are much higher for you potentially. We do have a self-referral reduction as well as our student assistance program process, which I want to touch base on a little bit here. So the self-referral reduction comes from a student being honest and accountable to a code violation. So if you come the next school day or practice day, whichever comes first, after an infraction and approach administration or your coaches to admit about you conducting the infraction, we'll reduce that suspension for you if you qualify for the self-referral. So what that reduction looks like is if you are looking at your first code violation, that's typically a 25% suspension of your season, we'll reduce that down to a 10% suspension of the season. Or if it's your second violation and you're completing a self-referral, we'll take that 50% suspension and reduce it down to a 25% suspension of that, and so on and so forth. So you, by being honest and accountable and referring yourself, will reduce the total suspension time. This definitely comes into play for your rules 1 and 2, or your violations of number 1 and 2. The Student Assistance Program, or the SAP program, is also an opportunity that's available to anyone who conducts a code violation. And ultimately, if you go through the Student Assistance Program, or that SAP process, working through us with Student Services, you'll be eligible for a cumulative status reduction. So what that means is essentially, if you go 1 calendar year from, let's say you commit a code violation on October 10th. From 1 year from then, so October 10th, 2022, on October 10th, 2023, you would be eligible to have that cumulative status, that one code violation, removed from your record. So if you were to violate the code again, it would be considered a first violation at that particular point. Now, you're only eligible for that if you complete the SAP process. The other benefit of completing our student assistance program is you can get some award recognition eligibility back at the end of your particular sports season or for the senior year or whatever that may be by going through that program. So you can also see our code written out for more details on that particular process.
The WIA is in dire need of licensed officials as the total number of registered officials has declined by 39% since 2010 and is down 1,400 in just the past year. That number goes up to over 3,000 less officials since the 2018-2019 school year.
Adult behavior, poor sportsmanship, and fan conduct has been attributed to be the top reason for decline. To keep high school athletic opportunities available, we need your help. To be positive and supportive in the stands. This takes a lot of work to pull off, and appreciate all those involved.
The last several months have been a landscape changing in the NCAA with name, image, and likeness rules. Those changes have allowed NCAA athletes to profit from their NIL. The WIAA is emphasizing that NCAA NIL rules do not apply to WIAA student athletes.
High school student athletes from around the state of Wisconsin have received direct messages on their social media accounts looking to solicit their business. This is not allowed in education-based athletics and would result in a career-ending violation for a WIAA high school student athlete. Student athletes, remember, your eligibility is yours to manage. Be responsible for it.
The philosophy of the WIAA is that a student owes loyalty and allegiance to the school and team which they are a member of during the season of a given sport. The philosophy is supported by the non-school participation rule. According to the rule, athletes may compete in no more than 2 non-school competitions with school approval during each regular sports season.
These 2 non-school competitions are not allowed to occur during the WIA tournament series for that sport. Failing to adhere to this rule results in a student losing their eligibility for the remainder of the season. Students wishing to participate in a non-school competition should reach out to their coach. A form is needed to be filled out and filed in the athletic office to be processed correctly.
Within our athletic programs, we all have a role to play. And those roles are simply laid out: players play, coaches coach, and parents support. In order for us to achieve maximum success in our athletic programs, we need to make sure that we're all embracing that role. We need to also make sure that we're staying within our fence, otherwise we end up eating someone else's grass. Parents play a pivotal role in the success of our programs, and the role of parenting is getting increasingly hard every year as it passes. With the increasing difficulty of parenting, the National Federation of High School Sports has created a video to support and assist in the role of the parent seat. Please join me in watching this video and learning a little bit more about the parent seat.
In this seat, the pressure is high. And for this season, this is your seat. The National Federation of State High School Associations would like to thank you for supporting your child in learning positive, lifelong lessons by participating in interscholastic activities. As a parent, there are many feelings and emotions that you will experience during your student's participation in interscholastic activities. While watching your student participate, you can experience the entire emotional spectrum, from sheer joy to utter disappointment. At the same time, for students who are motivated to be part of a team, it can be an enjoyable and rewarding experience for everyone. Sitting in the parent seat requires thought and discipline. It is not an easy seat. The parent seat is a place where you and your student want to create enjoyable memories, not experiences filled with inappropriate language or unsporting behavior. The one who suffers most from these experiences is your child. Negative parent behaviors can be embarrassing to your student and damaging to your relationship as their biggest fan. This is the last thing you want. Here are 10 suggestions to help you with the emotions that arise in the parent seat. 1. Develop an awareness. Recognizing that you may be part of the problem in the stands is the first step to addressing it. This in itself can be challenging, as typically you are the last one to know if you are part of the problem. 2. Understand the benefits. Recognize the benefits that participation in interscholastic activities provides your student. Interscholastic activities provide a platform that promotes fitness, the opportunity to be part of a team and community, can improve your students' confidence, and provides an opportunity to learn new skills and improve current skills. 3. Embrace the growth and development of your student. By participating in activities, your student will have many opportunities to learn life lessons that will help him or her as they transition into adulthood. Taking a hands-off approach at times can be difficult for parents, but also rewarding for both the student and the parent. It can allow the student to gain confidence and independence to deal with their own obstacles. And many times, this independence can be one of the most important challenges to strengthening trust in your relationship. Knowing that your student is struggling can bring some comfort because it is evidence that your student is on a path to adulthood. 4. Visualize yourself as a respectful spectator. Many studies indicate that the #1 reason kids participate in sports and activities is to have fun. Please keep that top of mind and in perspective throughout the school year. Emphasize to your student that they should enjoy the experience and, above all, have fun. Understanding and communicating this perspective can provide balance and support when it is needed the most, and ensure a fun and enjoyable interscholastic experience for your child. 5. Consider exercising before the event. Exercising doesn't necessarily mean a 60-minute workout. A short walk, deep breathing, or a few stretching exercises may be helpful to relieve stress. It is also a proven fact that exercise can release endorphins that help you deal with stress. 6. Participate in a relaxing activity. Find something that you enjoy doing, such as reading a book or listening to music before the event. Relaxing before a game, competition, or other event may help provide a positive state of mind as you prepare to watch your child participate in their activity. 7. Take a break. If your emotions begin to escalate while in the stands, a brief timeout may help you reset your emotions. It could be as simple as taking a restroom break, a trip to the concession stand, or a short walk. 8. The 24-hour rule. If you ever feel compelled to confront a coach, take some time to collect your thoughts and allow your emotions to settle before you do. If after 24 hours you still feel compelled to address an issue, call and schedule an appointment. 9. Be responsible. Be responsible in your decision making. You are a role model, and it is important to understand that not only is your child watching you, but so are other participating students. Be aware and set a good example for all of the young people in attendance. 10. Support your student. There are a lot of ways to let your student know that you are a supportive parent. Tell them that you love watching them participate, or how proud you are of the sacrifices they make to be part of a team. Once again, focus on the fun. Be a good listener when your student needs you. Supporting them and understanding their feelings, hopes, and dreams can help you build on your trusting and loving relationship. Be aware that you will experience many emotions while sitting in the parent seat. Realizing there are challenges that come with the territory is an important step in supporting your students' participation in interscholastic activities. Students learn so much from their experiences that only activities can uniquely provide. You want your student to enjoy being part of a team and community without having to worry about what you may say or do in the stands. When your student looks back on their high school experience, what do you want them to remember? The experience should be enjoyable for you, beneficial for your student, and hopefully provides an opportunity to build a closer bond with your child. That opportunity begins now, in the parent seat.
Transportation is an item that comes up pretty frequently within our programs. We have some different transportation options that are available to students in a practice and a late bus, depending on the sports season, what that schedule actually looks like. More importantly, when we go to and from events, when you sign up for our programs, you are also signing up for the transportation that we provide to them as well as from them. Now, if you're looking for any reason, or you have something come up, or whatever it may be, or you have something planned that you need to get to afterwards, we do require some communication and planning on your part with our athletic office in order to be able to accommodate that. So if you're looking to transport your own student as a parent or guardian, we have a form that we need to have submitted to the athletic office just for our records, and allows us to make some transportation decisions off of that. It also allows us to communicate with the coach what they can expect, to take that off of their plate a little bit so that they're not trying to manage transportation at the end of an event or whatever it is. They have that information up front. In order to effectively help us with that process, we need that submitted to the athletic office by noon the school day of the event or before the event. So for instance, if it's on Saturday, we need that by Friday at noon. If there's school that day, or if there's no school Friday, we need it by Thursday at noon, or 3 hours before the departure time, whichever comes up sooner. So that's what we need from you in order to make this transportation process work when it comes to transportation to and from events. These are things that we need on file for our records, helps us with transportation, and also assists in communicating what exactly that means when it comes to transporting your own student. And it must only be a parent or guardian that is transporting their own student. I want to thank you for taking the time on viewing this year's Parent-Student-Athlete Athletic Department meeting. I can't appreciate you enough for the commitment that you're doing with participating in our programs and taking the time to be able to overview how important it is to be all on this common ground, and also understand that being a Silver Eagle is a full-time commitment. Have a great season, and go Team MG!